Ladies and gentlemen, it happened. I thought this day would never come, but the day is here. I have something bad to say about Switzerland. This is going to be a difficult video for me, so please stay tuned and grieve with me as I explain why I'm not a big fan of Switzerland's lump sum tax program. Let's take a look. Hello everyone, bonjour, grüezi, ciao, how's everyone doing? And today we are going to talk about Switzerland. This is Javier Correa, your Research and Development Associate for Nomad Capitalist, and we said hello today in Italian, Swiss German, as well as French, three of the national languages of Switzerland. I am sorry if anyone is watching this video from Switzerland. I do not know how to greet anyone in Romansh, which is obviously the fourth national language of Switzerland, and a beautiful language indeed, but I happen to not speak it, so I do apologize for that. Now, as I mentioned to you at the beginning of today's segment, I'm going to, for the first time, tell you something negative about Switzerland. Now, as you know, here at Nomad Capitalist, and me personally as Javier, I've done multiple videos about Switzerland. I'm usually a big fan of Switzerland. I think Switzerland has multiple advantages. I would agree with our founder, Andrew Henderson. I think it is one of the rare Western countries that still welcomes wealthy foreigners and wealthy locals alike. I think Switzerland is one of the last bastions of freedom in the Western world. You see freedom in decline in Canada, in France, in Spain, even in the UK, and yet Switzerland always stands strong. So I do want to say that this is just a minor bump because obviously nobody's perfect. Switzerland is by far one of the most interesting countries in terms of tax residence available in Western Europe and in the West in general. But I do think that their lump sum tax program has become overcomplicated, overcomplex, and is just not as competitive as some of the new programs that have come out in recent years in places like Italy and Greece. So let me explain why. So basically, Switzerland is the grandmother of the lump sum tax program. It was the country that first introduced it, and it became really famous for it. In fact, today, to this day, multiple foreigners, thousands of foreigners, live in Switzerland under this program. And if you're exceedingly wealthy, then yes, it can still be very interesting. And obviously, Switzerland is a safe place. It's a place where you can find a higher degree of privacy, at least much higher than in other Western countries. It has an exceptional quality of life. I would say the only other bad element there is obviously cost of living. It's one of the few European countries where actually cost of living is higher than it is in the United States. But, you know, you do get what you pay for. Pristine water, clean air, complete and total safety, great banks. I mean, it does come with its perks. I mean, if you're going to pay for a Ferrari, you might as well get a Ferrari, right? That's Switzerland. In terms of their lump sum tax programs, what don't I like? So number one, let's talk about it from the immigration perspective. If you happen to be a Swiss citizen by descent, for example, or if you happen to be married to a Swiss citizen, you simply cannot apply for the lump sum tax regime. This doesn't happen in Italy, for example, which is by far, I would say, the most popular lump sum tax program for most of our clients. In the case of Italy, if you're an Italian citizen, whether you were born in Italy or you obtained Italian citizenship by descent. By the way, we help a lot of people do that, obtaining their citizenship by descent. Italy is one of the countries that is more flexible with the obtention of Italian citizenship by descent. So definitely, if you have that nonno, if you have that nonna, if you have that ancestor that came over from Italy, you should consider getting your Italian passport. But well, back to topic. If you happen to have an Italian passport for whatever reason, and you haven't been a tax resident of Italy for the past 10 years, you can relocate to Italy and still benefit from the wonderful lump sum tax program they have, 200,000 euros per year, and essentially you are not bothered when it comes to your foreign income. In the case of Switzerland, if you're in the same situation, you have a great passport, but unfortunately you are not able to take advantage of the lump sum tax regime in your home country or in your parents' home country. So that's point number one that I'm not a big fan of. And in addition to that, what I mentioned, if you happen to be married to a Swiss citizen, same situation. The other thing I do not love is the fact that you have to go to Switzerland and you cannot perform any gainful activities in Switzerland. Now, granted, I do understand that the Swiss tax authorities assume that if you're coming in with a lump sum tax contract, you are a very wealthy individual. So the presumption is you can live off your wealth, you can live off your financial income, and you do not have to perform any income generating activities in Switzerland. But I just don't like that limitation. You know, I'm a big freedom oriented guy, and I don't like it when governments tell me what I can and cannot do. So the fact that in Switzerland I'm limited to not being able to perform any work, even if it's for pleasure, you know, I don't love it. Now, the third element I would mention here is that obviously Switzerland is a federal country, so similar like to what you would find in the US, where, Florida has its own laws, and then Texas has its own laws, and New York does its thing, and California does its thing. In Switzerland, it's not divided per states, but it is divided per cantons, and cantons have a very high degree of autonomy. And to the extent that certain cantons have simply decided to eliminate the lump sum tax options altogether. So basically, if you decide to relocate to Switzerland, you have to make sure that the canton you choose makes the lump sum tax system available to you. And unfortunately, the big one here, Zurich, has decided to discontinue the lump sum tax option. So not only can I not perform gainful activities in Switzerland, not only can I not obtain Swiss citizenship even after 10 years of living there because I would forfeit my lump sum tax regime, not only can I not fall in love and marry a local and be married to a Swiss citizen, but on top of that, I can't even freely choose where I want to live. I have to live in one of the cantons where this is actually permitted. Now, luckily, for example, in my case, I'm a big fan of the French culture. French is one of my favorite languages. I could go to Canton Vaud, or I could go to Canton Genève, so Geneva, and obviously these are great options. But, I also happen to like German, and Zurich is a very attractive city for most people watching this video. It is the financial capital of Switzerland, and the fact that it is off limits to somebody who wants the lump sum tax regime, again, makes me not love it. So definitely something to consider in this situation. In addition to that, I also think that it's worth noting that Switzerland's income tax calculations under the lump sum tax regime is far from straightforward and easy. So again, if you go to Italy, you have your 200,000 euros per year, you're good to go, you pay that per annum to the government, and you won't be bothered. In Switzerland, they dive deeper. So you have a contract with the Swiss tax authorities, you have to move to the cantons where this is possible, but then on top of that, they're going to look at your lifestyle in Switzerland. So the first thing they're going to look at is where you live. And then they apply the 7 multiplier rule, which means that they're going to assess what the rental value of your home in Switzerland is. And if that rental value multiplied by 7 is superior to what you're paying under the lump sum tax, then the Swiss tax authorities might readjust your tax, which again, I don't love because I've entered into a contract with the Swiss authorities. I like having the predictability of saying, this is what I'm going to pay in tax. And now you're telling me, not only do I have to follow all of the rules I stated previously, but now I also have to look at for my home. Like, where am I going to live? What the rental value of that is, what the fair market rental value of that is. It just adds on another layer of complexity that I really don't want to follow. Then on top of that, one of the main elements that we should love and that we, of course, are looking for when we're moving to one of these offshore, onshore hybrid countries is, okay, I'm under a favorable tax regime, but you know what? I have a great network of tax treaties, which means that my foreign income, I can claim treaty benefits, I can get lower withholding rates in the United States, for example, on my dividends, I can get better rates in Canada or in the UK or in France or wherever it is that I have my investments. Just because you shouldn't be a tax resident of the US doesn't mean you shouldn't buy stocks in the S&P 500. It's still an interesting investment, right? And so Switzerland does allow you to do that. They do allow you to take advantage of their great tax treaty network under the lump sum tax regime, but here's the catch. If you start claiming treaty benefits on foreign source income, and that foreign source income at one point, due to in the context of Swiss tax calculation, is too high, again, guess what? They're going to reassess your lump sum tax payable in Switzerland. So it's like, sure, we let you take advantage of the treaty, but then if your income is too high and you're taking too much advantage of our treaties, you know what? That lump sum, that's a bit low. We're going to increase that a bit. Again, I don't like that because I want to have the freedom to earn as much income as I want overseas. That is the main purpose of a lump sum. The fact that I should, in theory, be able to not worry about how much income I am making overseas. Now, granted, if I decide to basically not claim any treaty benefits while being a tax resident of Switzerland, I don't have to worry about this. But then again, we have another problem, which is one of the main benefits of living in Switzerland, aka having tax treaty benefits, goes away. So again, Javier, not a fan. Switzerland, you're not doing well so far. Your score is not where it should be. The final element I want to mention is your Swiss source income. So again, you guessed it. What happens if your Swiss source income is too high? Swiss tax authorities will come in and they'll say, we have to reassess the lump sum. This lump sum may potentially be too low. For all these reasons, I truly think I have tremendous respect for Switzerland. I think Switzerland was the pioneer. But at this point, I do see much more flexibility, much more freedom as an individual if I choose the Italian lump sum tax program, if I choose the Greek lump sum tax program, as opposed to choosing the Swiss lump sum tax program. And you know what? You might check out some of my other videos on Switzerland. I think Switzerland, even without the lump sum tax regime, is actually a pretty good place to be a tax resident. You know, no CFC rules, great corporate loopholes and advantages if you run offices offshore, no capital gains tax in most cases. So do you really need, if you really want to live in Switzerland, is the lump sum worth it? Or can you just be a regular tax resident and just use the Swiss tax code to your advantage? At least that's what I would do, definitely, because the Swiss lump sum tax is just not as competitive as it should be. I do hope that in the future, the Swiss tax authorities will maybe watch this video, they'll rethink their strategy, and maybe they'll update it. And I do want to see what that will yield, because I do have a lot of confidence in Switzerland when it comes to them being a bastion of freedom, free markets, and personal freedom alike. So Switzerland should definitely be on your map. Maybe not the lump sum tax, but it should definitely be on your map for other reasons. Now, this doesn't mean, potentially, if you have a lot of foreign source income and you don't care about all of the things I just mentioned, sure, it can still be an option. But if you want to explore more details about Switzerland's lump sum tax program, obviously we went through a detailed overview here, but there are a lot more nuances, a lot more scenarios to be worked out and to be analyzed. So if you want to do that and you want more comparisons between Switzerland and Italy and Greece and other tax-friendly options in Europe and around the world, apply to be our client, Nomad Capitalist/apply. We're waiting for you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video.